Hello. In this video, I'll be providing an insight into the radio control eye mechanisms installed in the Gauge 1 James project and the LGB 2090 presently employed as Ernest The Engine card. These radio control mechanisms are virtually identical to the original Thomas the Tank Engine equipment produced by Pennicott Paint Limited and used prior to Season 12's CGI changeover. But first, a background on radio control systems. Now, the RC systems used in these models are not typical of the RC cars that you pull off the rack at Radio Shack or even those slightly more expensive Nikos that you might find at a Sharper Image or other boutique shops such as that. Now, to begin with, if you happen to live in the United States, you might be familiar with the common 49 or 27 megahertz channels that these cars are built with, so you can run one car while a friend runs another. Now, higher-end systems such as these do not use the open 49 MHz channel, and 27 MHz is reasonably limited. Now, rather, 75 MHz is set aside for all surface equipment, that is anything that's not a model aircraft, and within that megahertz there are 60 individual channels to choose from. That means you can have 60 people running 60 controls, running 60 various types of RC equipment at the same time. Conceivably, I don't think you'd want to do it. Now, presently, this transmitter is set at 75.430 MHz. It's also known as channel 62. There's a receiver on the model which is also set to channel 62, and naturally, as this name implies, it receives the transmitter's commands and sends them to the two servos up front. This whole setup is powered by a 9-volt battery in Ernest's case. Now, channels can be changed quite easily with something called a crystal. It's this little can that fits one into the transmitter, the other into the receiver, and they can be of any one of those 60 channels. Let's see Ernest in action. First, the control. Not sure you can see the control is now at full power. Let's see. Turn Ernest on. I think you've already heard the servos come to life, and sure enough, and of course we can get an infinite number of eye movements from that, and of course I'll make an episode when that comes up. One of the modifications that was done was that we lowered this weight in the center, because otherwise this section of the body would not clear. In fact, another modification that I've done is to make this magnetic, so I can take it off as I please and it stays reasonably in place. Now, down here you can see the headlight. I've installed a bulb in the back. There's not enough room basically to install a wire, so I had to pull it out for the back, as you might see here, and pull it out for the back and basically paint the wire black. Runs under here, so I haven't put the connectors. You might see some Velcro being used. This is something that I use considerably with these models. I like to use Velcro to hold down virtually everything from the antenna of the receiver to the receiver itself, the battery, etc. Of course, the servos, since they're connected to the eyes, and they will hopefully be by a wire such as this, shortened of course. They have to be pretty much fixed with the eyes in one position. The eyes will be on the same platform of which they sit on, and so it's fixed, and that's going to present a little bit of a problem in James. But to show, basically, let me show you a couple of other things that we have here with Ernest. Don't make a mistake though, Ernest remains track powered. In fact, I have right up here a pair of connections. I'll plug them in, and you'll see that Ernest is very much controlled by track power. Now, granted, the fact that he runs at all is pretty much a miracle. When I bought him off of eBay, it cost me all of, $23, I believe. That's about 14 quid, give or take a bit. He didn't run at all. They opened it up, and it appeared as if he had been submerged in water for God knows how long. Cleaned up the contacts, and he came back to life. You might also note I cut this section out of the cab here, as you may see here, to provide room for the 9-volt battery right here. You can see the servos in there, and of course the eyes will sit here, and the face in front of it like so. I'm sure that looks quite odd right now, but you can see basically how the setup works. And there'll be a pair of rods running the eyes there. I'll show you all of that in the next, soon as the eyes arrive. They're coming from Hong Kong. Same with the servos. I didn't want to pay the $14 for the high-tech H55s, which I have in James. Figure I get the cheapos. It's the same thing, basically rebadged. And they took about 2 weeks to arrive, and I'm awaiting the beads of which I'm going to make the eyes. And mind you, you can see everything just fits. Just barely fits. Now mind you, this is the same setup that they used back over at Pennicott Paint to make the original Thomas models. They use the same microservers, that's what they're called, and Futaba receivers, which in one photo that's shown on the Pennicott Paint website, they show a photo of Duck, the Great Western engine, with his shell removed, and you can see that there's a receiver there. However, the actual casing, the plastic casing, has been removed. It's now simply, they just simply put the circuit board in there, and one can do that too. It saves room. Now on that note, I dare say you'd like to look at James. One thing that I think many of you probably have noted between the James videos is that his front wheels have changed since. They were Bachmann big hollow wheels initially, now they're LGB spoke wheels, and they're plastic, no less. Now, the fact that they're plastic aside, they're just about as perfect as you could get in terms of size. Now, LGB does make metal ones. The problem is that the metal ones cost about as much as Ernest costs off of eBay, if not more. They're about $27. I need to get 2 sets of 2. There's 2 per package, and I need 2 because the tender had 3 wheels, and you get 4 wheels out of 4 wheel sets out of 2 packages, and so that's about $50 shipped right there. And the reason I say this is because some of you have been telling me to make some James updates, and I'm not made out of money. Though I'd like to, I can't. Now, unless you fellas like it so much that you want to send donations. Because if I keep up at the pace that you want me to, I won't have any money, and I'll find myself doing improvisation of the old beans. Fuck controller! Ah, sausages, smoky links, porridge, sausages. But I digress. It runs a little bit odd as it is now, but that's because the motors, there's hardly any weight on it for once, and for second, there's no drive rods on it, which would improve things. And I also installed a little brass plate in here in the meantime, just to dissipate heat so it doesn't melt the plastic all that much. Now let's look under James. Let me turn this off. Now, you probably saw this in the videos, but nevertheless, this is the bottom of James. Right here's the receiver. Crystal has been taken out for Ernest. The 2 servos are up front here, just running loose. And I have to make a bracket for them as soon as I have the eyes. I want the servos and the eyes to be a one single unit, and I know a lot of you are saying, what's the deal with the buffers? Don't worry, I'll take care of that. And now for a little bonus. I'm sure you recognize who this is. Now, the LGB model of Stevie, you might notice, differs slightly, and that's because this is not an official LGB model. It's a Chinese ripoff from the 1980s called the Big Bird Express. Yes, that's right, a Sesame Street themed one. You might even be able to see Big Bird Express on the side there, just faint. Now, the difference between the Big Bird Express and the LGB model is that the Big Bird Express did not have an actual cab roof. It was designed so you could stick your figurines, Big Bird, Elmo, all those sorts, and then the kids could pull the figurines straight out again, throw them across the room, into the window, eat them, etc. Now, what I've done is I've fashioned a roof out of styrene to mimic the original LGB roof. Well, I see time is running short, so I'll simply say thanks for watching. Stay tuned for new updates.